welcome to the Quantum Light Consciousness Broadcast Show. Today we have our guest, Lauren Kelly. Now, Lauren is an entrepreneur. She's an artist, an intuitive consultant with her company, LK Productions, LLC. She's able to tune into the auric field of any person and then specifically tell them what is going on in their energy field. She produces aura portraits where she paints highly customized and colorful paintings of a person's aura after reading their energy. Her areas of expertise also include goal coaching, relationship insight, tarot interpretation, dream interpretation, mediumship, women's empowerment, and spiritual advisement. And she also has a bachelor's degree in psychology. Lauren, welcome to the show. Thanks.
Thanks, Jarrell. Oh my gosh, you make it sound like I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you're quite accredited. I had to kind of just rattle off your accomplishments there. The reason why I wanted to have you on the show is because I actually got an aura portrait from you in 2015. And needless to say, the work that you did was very, very accurate. And you really touched on the actual aspects in my energy field that I only knew. So I knew I eventually had to get in contact with you and see how you started and everything. We're just gonna come to my first question here.
Yeah.
So how did you activate your ability to see, your clairvoyance, and develop such a strong ability set?
Oh gosh, totally inadvertently, to be completely honest. I've always normalized it, I guess. I grew up just kind of experimenting with visual arts in my grandma's painting studio. She's actually a Western painter. And from there, I've always kind of leaned into dance, music, everything. And so I thought that my intuition and my imagination were the same thing. And it wasn't until I was 17 years old and hustling my art at metaphysics fairs that this woman walked up to me and insisted that I saw her soul. And I had no clue what she was talking about. And honestly, I was a little bit of a dick about it. I am a huge skeptic myself. But yeah, it's just all kind of come together in such a way that it's called me to lean further into maybe some of the understanding that I take for granted, I suppose, if that makes any sense at all.
It does, yeah. Yeah, good. Yeah, and some of the things that a lot of people kind of get into when they get into intuitive reading or just understanding that they are empathic is kind of developing themselves where they feel they're still in a balance with their inner and outer reality and kind of setting boundaries. I kind of wanted to go in on that, based off of what you know now. What do you think people can take from your experience into maybe developing themselves in a type of routine to kind of get their clarity up to higher levels? Just to keep their boundaries clear and get into psychic work.
Yeah, so for me, I have found it to be true that whenever we try to separate the magical and the mundane, that's where we trip up and take our accuracy down. So for me, really mundane things like making sure that I'm eating well, making sure that my bills are paid on time, and making sure that I'm giving myself time and space with friends, going to therapy, for Christ's sake, those have been the things that have helped me hone in more. I think instinctively, whenever we get into this work, a lot of us want to distance ourselves from our earthly life. And the fact is, it doesn't matter what dimension you come from. If you're here to live here and to be here and to live out a purpose here. And so, frankly, the better care that you take of yourself in this life to the best of your ability, I think the better that your intuition will be. And additionally, in psychology, I'm not an expert by any means, but in psychology, there is this concept called microsplicing. And it refers to the way that our brains take in information in every single nanosecond, even whenever we don't realize that that's happening. And so sometimes these gut twinges are absolutely higher knowing, and sometimes it's memory. And sometimes it's both, playing out in a very specific way to give you that gut feeling that, hey, I need to take this route home, or hey, I need to get myself out of this situation, or hey, this person needs something right now in this moment. The more that we give ourselves, I guess, the time and the space and the resource to not worry so much about our earthly life, the better that our intuition can flow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it honestly does. And honestly, I found out like kind of like the same thing. Like when you have a hunch, like a stomach feeling, like a gut feeling, that's honestly usually like your first indicator of like, you know, what to do, and at least a signal of guidance. So when you're doing a reading for somebody, like what are the cues and like energetic signals that could maybe like arise like commonly like when you're performing a reading?
Oh gosh. It's like I get overwhelming feelings or overwhelming ideas. I'm not quite sure how to express it. It's first of all, I get this physical, like almost like a body high, like tingles or kind of a slight dizziness, but not in a bad way. And then I can't get a certain song out of my head, or I can't get a certain like one-liner from a movie out of my head, or a certain color or a work of art or something. And it's almost like it comes on too fast and too intense for it to be me thinking it, even though that's exactly what I think, because I'm a little skeptic. So oftentimes these hunches with clients are it's almost purely mental, and it's very easy to brush it off as such. But then whenever you express it, you find that somebody goes, oh my gosh, how did you know that? And if you're me, you're sitting there going, oh, I didn't know that. I had no freaking clue.
Right. Okay. That's really like extraordinary, honestly, because like having that skill set and just being and just knowing that, just like you can go out and look at anybody on the street and then just know to yourself that you can see their soul, like, and you can know like their inner world, you know, if they gave you permission to do so. And just knowing that will probably put me over, like, I don't know, like I'd be kind of like I don't want to say like narcissistic, but you know, you kind of get like, you probably do get like you know, maybe in a kind of like your own zone, like your own vortex, like your own soul's vortex, where, you know, like you understand you are God, like you understand like you are like part of Creator who, you know, is manifesting it and is activating partially in their own higher power as a sovereign being. So what do you love most about seeing somebody's soul?
Oh gosh. You know, it's just, I just feel amazed by everyone that I have the tremendous blessing to read. And I think that Spirit has really blessed me with a lot of self-doubt. And I know that sounds weird, but I seriously doubt so much about what I do and what I see. And I think that is to balance the potential for narcissism, as you mentioned. I think that without that, I might be on some other something. But it's just humbling and amazing to see things about someone else and to be able to affirm those things and just to speak life without any barrier. You know, if it were me talking to me, then I would say, yeah, you're kind of good at this, but this part of you is real flawed. But whenever I'm working with a client, I say, God, don't you know how amazing you are? Like, don't you see what this is about you? Don't you see your strengths? And even your challenges have some great purpose to them. Don't you see that? And it just, I don't know, it just gives me so much joy, sheer joy to do this work.
Nice. Yeah. I feel like a lot of intuitives kind of like go off of that inner joy, and they kind of are always like really, really humble and just elated to actually like be in their work, because their work is their joy. So kind of like living that life every single day of your life, like, can you see through the veil, like directly through, or like what do you see from like your first person perspective? Do you see beings, or you see just like auras?
Oh, I have to admit that in my personal life, I'm not very perceptive. And I think the reason is um, I dedicate, and I really need to work on this, and in fact, I am, but I dedicate so much time and thought energy to how I am perceived by those that I'm close to and those that I love. I really value the opinions of, my family and my mom and my ancestors who are no longer living. I think constantly about what they would think of my life. And my coworkers I do have a day job that's been helping me to hone so many skills that I don't know that I would have without it. I constantly think about whether I'm good enough for them. And it's almost shameful to admit that. But because of that, I have sincere trouble seeing. And I think that just kind of breathes life to the point that really anybody is simultaneously a great intuitive and a horrible intuitive at the same time. It's never about someone being more talented or more skilled. It purely comes from what barriers you place on yourself, because I place tremendous barriers on myself personally, and then go off and run this business that I get. I mean, I don't think that I'm all that good, but I get great reviews and have for 7 years. So I've got to be doing something right there. But then why can't I see somebody, that I'm sitting next to in an office? It's funny like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally understand. Like, a lot of people, I know that they're like, activation with their like third eye energy center. Sometimes it's on, then it's off, and then sometimes it's kind of like halfway, and then it's off, and then it's like on for a while. Then they don't see it for like another, couple weeks or months, and kind of like working with that, like I guess like knowing that you're always connected, like always walking between worlds and being totally empathic and intuitive. Like, do you have like an astral like team you work with spirit that kind of like handles like kind of like helps you handle like energies of maybe the workplace, or maybe they might help you like tune into somebody's energy a little bit better?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I do. And I owe all of them a huge debt of gratitude, especially for the time that I spend questioning whether they're real. Like they're real champs. Probably the one that I'm closest to in my astral team, so to speak, is actually a pretty low frequency energy. I find that I end up working with, and not everybody is this way, I suppose, but I end up working with a variety of different vibes, so to speak. And this one energy in particular, I really lean on as like a protector and somebody that gives me permission to be angry sometimes, or to defend myself when I need it, because I haven't always had that. And particularly whenever you interact with a lot of clients and your doors are always open energetically, it's really nice to have like an astral bouncer, even though he's a little bit sketchy sometimes. He's actually I feel tremendously comfortable with him, and I'm just really grateful for all that he does to protect me, for sure.
Awesome. He's not a Bigfoot, is he?
I don't know. He wears whatever face he wants, so he may come out here looking like a Wookiee sometimes.
Awesome. Yeah, they're more common than you think, honestly. Mm-hmm. I've seen them around in the astral. I've also seen them, like people recording them, like in like UFO. What do you call it? On the East City Ranch. You ever heard of that place?
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, I guess one of the other questions I had is like, being an intuitive, like, you get to see inside, other people's worlds. There has to be like fun stuff that happens like off the cuff, like things that you never thought would like go down, but they end up happening. Like, what are one of the most extraordinary things that you had happen, or one of the funny things that had ended up happening that was memorable?
Oh gosh. So this one time I was reading at this little shop, and this was maybe during the first year that I was doing portraits, and these two girls came and sat down, and they were like making their dad, who was like of retirement age, get a reading from me. And he was refusing on all counts. He didn't want it, but he, I mean, kind of gave in. And so we sat down, and I was already a little bit nervous because how do you read for like a 60-year-old Baptist man?
Right.
And I started reading, and then I looked at the girls and said, "What's so important about his shoes?" And he gets kind of defensive and goes, "My shoes are fine. What are you talking about? My shoe? What are you talking about?" And I was like, I don't really know, sir. I see something about your shoes. There's like a female figure that's like going on about your shoes. I'm not really sure who this is. And then after we had debated it for a few minutes, trying to figure out what that was symbolically, one of the girls got like a text message from her mom being like, "Did your dad replace those ratty shoes yet? He was supposed to get them while he was out." And I was like, what? Because they just started like laughing hysterically and showed me this text message. I was like, what on earth is happening? So, yeah, it's funny to me because like so often we get so into it and go, wow, I'm leaning in and I'm becoming one with my 8th dimension crystalline body. And then there's something like that occurs and it's like, okay, well, we're still on Earth today.
Yeah. I know for a lot of people out there, like the astral is like probably like one of their favorite places to be, just because like you can live your mundane life and then, you can actually interact there, and it's still like comical. It's still like people are still like, it's more so, if anything, that's actually there. Like when you do like a reading for somebody, like what does it look like? Does it look like exactly like a aura portrait, or is it kind of just like more energetic and kind of like you like do the conversion into paint to paper?
Oh gosh, it's like I'm saying oh gosh so much today. It's really like I don't know how to describe them better than feelings, to be quite honest. I wish I had more precise language. But it's like overwhelming colors and feelings and sometimes images or sensations. Like I can feel like a breeze from somewhere, or I can taste something, and to me that taste is similar to whatever color I end up depicting. Like I'm one of those people that associates like colors and numbers and flavors, and it's weird. But then what happens is I just purely paint, and I don't even think about what any of it means in that moment. Especially with the online readings, this is great because, as much as I love doing in-person readings, and I do, and I love the experience of getting to, let somebody like watch me paint, just because I know that I love that as a client. I really particularly enjoy doing the online readings because I can just zone out and paint and not have to interpret it live, and then come back later and look at what everything means and interpret it. And in that moment, I can just focus on allowing God, allowing spirit to move through me and into my hands and through my very beat up watercolor brushes. So that's usually how that comes about, is just purely a surrendering. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, because like it's all about the flow, right? Like really, once you get into it, you're basically just like a channel. You're just channeling energy, and energy is like kind of like moving through you in your own filter of like your own personality and your own soul. So that's awesome. And I guess one of the last questions is like when you see this stuff, like what are some of the things that like you can recommend that people do to like get themselves more in tune with their own soul, to be able to see like clearly?
Yeah, I would recommend, mundane things like just making sure that your diet is right for you, or making sure that you're taking, if you genuinely need a certain medication, freaking take it. If you genuinely need to go and get some activity or get some more rest, go and do it. And then also just surrounding yourself with daily little teeny tiny reminders that you are divine, that you are loved, that you're cared for. And that might come in the form of making sure that your home is decorated in such a way that when you walk into it, you want to be there. or it might be in, changing the music that you listen to. Maybe you love that dark, moody music, but maybe you need to just not listen to it so often. Little teeny tiny changes like that can make a world of difference, just because what you're trying to do is allow your human, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual needs to be met, so that your mind isn't wasting any time worrying about those, that it can then just be open and relaxed to spirit. I don't think that you can, using your intuition and learning to lean into it is like training a muscle, but I don't think that the sight itself is like a muscle. I think that the more that you lean in and surrender, and the more that you give yourself what you need to be able to safely do that, the better clarity you will have.
Awesome. Right. Yeah. And it's kind of like your inner reality, it kind of has to reflect like the outer reality, because if you're in your own home and it's like kind of like messy, it's kind of like, it's like, full 1080. It's like, that vortex has to like beat outside and then like kind of like regenerate and revolve, within like, you in your center. So that's definitely accurate. During the interview, I'm going to have for people watching this, you already saw it. Like, I'm going to put up a couple aura portraits that she has done, so you guys can see like how accurate and how talented, Lauren is. I actually, to get into specifics, Lauren, like when you did my reading in 2015, I remember I was looking in my mirror and I was like, well, if my third eye is real, like I basically like it should like represent that symbol on my forehead. So I remember literally like mentally putting the third eye symbol on my forehead, and then that was like 3 months go by, and then I see your readings, and then you're only giving out for like $20. I'm like, wow, this is a deal. I'm like, I'm definitely taking this. So I got a reading and I get it back and I see what you saw. It saw my third eye symbol plastered
right there.
And the spirit guides and a whole bunch of other stuff. So if you guys are like, looking for like an accurate intuitive, she's totally the real deal. So, Lauren, do you have any like last statements, kind of like as a closing statement for the audience?
Oh yeah, for sure. In case I haven't made it clear enough already, you are always divinely worthy, divinely held, divinely cared for, and you don't necessarily deserve everything that happens to you, but you do have power to claim it for your highest good, and I would encourage you to, absolutely encourage you to.
Yes, that's so true. So true. Lauren, thank you for being a guest today on the show. I know I kind of just asked kind of, not last minute, but I extended it out. So I'm glad you could actually get on a call, find time to be here. And everybody, thank you guys for watching. Do you have a website that people could reach you on? Absolutely. That's going to be lkintuitive.com. So that's Lima Kilo Intuitive.com. And that has resources, downloadables, all the goods. Awesome. Okay, everybody check her out. She's awesome. And thank you everybody for tuning in. And thank you again, Lauren. And I'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye, everybody.